What is up? Anyways, we're into the next day, and we are going to be showing you guys, or I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your own, set up your Series 4, Series 5 RX-7 on a Link ECU. So in this case, right, I'm going to put one thing here. Jeez. There. Stock cast. Alright, so we have a couple things on Gabe specs, 1050 primaries and then 1300 secondaries, BorgWarner SXE 257, IGN 1A smart coils, which is very important for us, and I'll tell you why. Stock crank angle sensor, that's also very important. S5 back valve, not too important. 3-port boost controller, not too important. GM coolant temp sensor, GM intake air temp sensor, which we're going to calibrate. S5 alternator, not too important for the tune. S5 full range TPS, not too important for the tune. That will just kind of be cleaned out through cell enrichment for transients. And then we have some of our I/O, so auxiliary 1 for idle air control valve, auxiliary 2 for our boost control, auxiliary 4 for a tachometer, auxiliary 5 for fuel pump, temp 1 for intake air temp 2 for coolant temp, and volt 1 for our TPS, and volt 2 for our lambda. That is essentially all the important I/O aside from the injectors, crank angle sensor. That is all predefined via Link. This is all custom, so you have the option of choosing what you want, and that's what we chose here. Alright, and then here I have some equations that we're going to be using throughout the video. You can put this in the description, and this will all make sense as I go. Things you might want to get access to is calibrations. So he has the AEM wideband, so we have access to the instruction manual here and the PDF. So we're going to be making use of this. We have access to our injector data. If you have sophisticated enough injectors, if you have like injector dynamics, you should be able to get access to all the data for your injector dead time and pulse width information through the injector dynamics site. Companies like Dishworks will also have this information. If not, you don't have to worry about it. You can kind of tune around it. I really shouldn't be saying that, but not all injector information is particularly available, but you can get this stuff if you get it flow tested. They'll provide this data for you, which I'd recommend, but don't run cruddy injectors. The fresher the better. Injector dynamics is great. So anyways, I'm going to provide a base map file for you guys to use, and alongside with my master layout. And I'm just going to start going and showing you guys. So if you want to load my master layout, just hit load layout, and the download will be in the description. It's called Peter's main layout. So we're just going to load that, and I work in a specific set of units. So let me just show you guys here. These are the units I use, so we're all on the same page, and bam. So I'm just gonna go one by one and just start explaining everything. I don't want to make this video too long. So underneath our oops, let's get rid of that. So we're underneath our configuration table. You have our rotors 2, engine type rotary, custom type dead center, off, blah blah blah, and our firing order 1, 2. I mean, it's just a rotary. Underneath our fuel setup, this is very important. So the master fuel value is pretty much a scalar. As you see, it says master fuel should be adjusted before adjusting any cells in the fuel table. So as long as you can get the car to idle, you're fine. In order to get a rough number where you want it, this is for a stock S4 T2. So S4 and S5 have 550cc injectors, and I'm going to show you how to get a rough number. So our old master fuel value, which is 12 milliseconds over here. So we have 12 milliseconds. I'll just put these values so they make a little more sense. We have 12 milliseconds, and we're going to divide that by this value here. So we're going to take our new injectors, so they're 1050s and then 1300 primaries, add that together, we get 2350, and then we do the same 550 plus 550 for the OEM turbo injectors, so 550 plus 550, 1100, and we get 5.26. Before we actually make any changes, just hit File, Save As, and you want to make a new file for this, so we're not overriding on this existing one, and we're just going to name it Gabe's base map, right? We're just going to put it on the desktop temporarily. There we go, we have our file saved. As you can see, when we use this equation to estimate our master fuel, we get roughly 5.62 milliseconds. So we're just going to change this value to roughly 6, and we can kind of play around with that as we go. And we just hit F2 to save the file, and bam. And for our injector setup, for your primary and secondaries, you will adjust your injector data based off of that information I was talking about through the station injection table. So here, injector dead time table. So here, 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 and here. Now, I'd be wasting our time and in this video, but you can get that data online. And if you don't have it, as I said, I would say it is important because it does help out quite a bit. But yeah, our cold start information we won't play with here. It should be pretty spot on, as long as your fueling data is correct. For fuel corrections, we right now actually don't have an IET sensor hooked up. We just need to drill and tap, so we're actually going to disable IET corrections for the time being, so it doesn't throw anything off. Excel enrichment, we're not going to touch anything here. Overrun fuel cut, we're not going to touch anything here. Our closed loop lambda is enabled. We won't touch anything here in this base map. And for stage injection, we won't really touch anything, but this is the data here for stage injection. And as I said, for your injector data here on your secondaries, and then you just have this 0 to out at the time being. Injector timing, we're not really touching anything here, just left by its default information. And this is our AFR table that we're working with. And our fuel table, again, we're not really going to touch anything here. Not too important at the time being until you get the car running. Underneath our ignition setups, we have our setup on rotary leading direct. Very important. So we are running IGN-1As, and if you're running IGN-1As, LS coils, LQ coils, etc., any direct fire setup where you're having a coil and igniter for each individual spark plug, you want to use this mode. And I'll explain, obviously the ECU needs to know this. If you're using FC or FD coils, so if you have pretty much 2 igniters for your trailing and then a wasted leading setup, then you're going to use this. So it's very important to use the rotary modes, so the ECU knows. And yeah, we are using that. And if you're using FC coils, if you're using FD coils, if you're using IGN-1As or GM-LS coils, your spark edge will always be on falling. Make sure this is set or else you are going to burn out your coils. Anyways, over here, ignition corrections, we're actually going to disable all IET ones for the time being since we don't have our IET enabled. So we're just going to hit off. And bam. We're not going to play with anything here. This is the dwell, fairly safe. Our ignition table here, fairly safe for a stock Turbo 2 configuration, and it will just get you going. Our trailing split, fairly safe, and I'll explain the importance of this here on how to set your base timing on your Link ECU. Underneath engine protections, we're not going to play with anything here. Everything is based off of coolant temps, so our RPM table and our map limit, fairly safe. Over here, we have our fuel pump control. So we are running a fuel pump, and if I recall, we're just going to use the standard fuel pump control setup. And if you look back at our notes, we had our fuel pump on auxiliary 5. So right now actually doesn't even have auxiliary 5 because it's set up for a monsoon G4X. So I'm just going to that's temporary, but we'll set up the fuel pump and we'll just hit F2 to save the file. There we go. It's being a little laggy. Then we have engine fan. We are not, this is if you're using like an electronic fan. We're using the stock clutch fan because that's how we do things down here. We have our tachometer, which we can configure. So our tachometer is on auxiliary 4. And these settings look quite handy dandy. And we're just gonna save that or hit F2. All right, so their auxiliary outputs are pretty good. Digital inputs. Here, I know the clutch switch is enabled in this tune. We're not gonna be using that. So again, hit save. If you're not using it, you can hit off and bam. Analog inputs, pretty important. So our engine coolant temp sensor is actually on AN temp 2. And just hit yes, I know it's already assigned. And we're using GM sensors. So I have calibration tables set here for a stock Mazda coolant temp and IAT if you're using those. But in this situation, we're using GM ones. So we just hit the Delphi, AC, ECT, and there's a bunch of configurations here as you can see. And again, we're just going to save that file. And we're going to do the same for the IAT, which we have on AN temp 1. And then we're going to not use the stock calibration as you can see. And we're going to change that to Delphi, IAT. We'll save that. Just always make it a habit to save. I know you guys are probably annoyed seeing that. And lastly, our Lambda 1 is our AM wideband, and we have our AM wideband set up on AN Volt 2. So I'm just going to assign this to AN Volt 2 and hit yes. And we are going to actually configure it. So as I said, Gabe had a AM wideband and we had to actually manually configure it. So we have one set up for a glow shift. We're not using a glow shift, we're going to go underneath linear cal, and I'm just going to name this, we're going to name this AM 30-41110, just so we have a nice reference. And I know from the data on AEM's website, so here, that from 0 to 4.99 volts, if we just look at the data, and I think I did mention my units, so very important when entering all this data. This is the units I'm using. So the units, we're going to have this in lambda, and that is from 10 AFR to 19.98. So it just works in a linear scale. 19.98. And we're just going to hit F2, save that, and we're going to go back underneath lambda 1, and that was set to linear cal 2. And bam, our wideband is fully configured. And then for our map sensor, we are not running an external map sensor, but this is if you're running a GM3 bar. So at the moment, we're just going to hit none. We're running the internal sensor. It will pick it up when we plug in the link to the computer, but at the moment the link's not hooked up. We're not using oil pressure or any of these other things here, but we are using a TPS, of course, and our TPS is on AN Volt 1. So we'll just set that up, and bam, and we can calibrate that when we plug it into the car. Very important, this is the trigger setup information for a stock Series 4 or Series 5 crank angle sensor. So I'm just going to click through here, and hopefully this all makes sense to you. This trigger arming threshold table is one I made that worked best for a pretty beat up cast, so this will start up on any car. I've had this start up on multiple cars. And whenever configuring your timing and setting base timing, this is very important, and you won't find this anywhere online unless you found my question on the link ECU forums. So when setting base timing, right, we lock it to 5 degrees after tap dead center. That's what the negative is for. So -5 PTDC, which is 5 degrees after top dead center. If you are running IGN1As, smart coils, LS2 coils, etc., etc., this value will be set to 0. Now, when is it not going to be set to 0? If you're running FD coils or FC coils, this value is going to be set to 180, but we're going to leave it at 0. Now, whenever you are setting base timing in the computer and you're about to spin the CAS, you have to do one small thing. You have to go underneath your ignition table and then hit this right here, hit Control-C to copy everything, hit the equals button, and hit -15. You want this whole thing set to 15 degrees after top dead. You want it set 15 degrees back, retarded, and you'll hit, you'll hit Control-S, save it in the ECU, and use a timing gun on trailing 1 and get your timing mark lined up. Once you are 100% done and your timing is locked, just hit Control-V, and then save that, and hit Control-S, and then bam, your timing is locked. Anyways, very important to lock your timing once you can get the car fired. And if it's not firing up, you're gonna have to do that while it's cranking. You can disable the injectors and stuff if you want, but very important. The mass section we're not using, motorsport we're not using, idle air control valve, or idle speed control we are using. So we're using a S5 back valve. So this is how I have it set up. No ignition by idle. You'll be using this if you're not using a back valve. Closed loop, solenoid, and we have our back valve set on auxiliary 1, so it's right on point. And this is the data. 200 hertz is roughly where the S4, S5 back valve sits, and all this data is pretty solid. If you are NA, you can set this to like 40 to 50 kPa, and yeah. Aside from that, the rest of the idle data is pretty, set on. It's all closed loop. Works pretty good for the space map, so I'm not going to touch anything else for the time being. Boost control, we do have an electronic boost solenoid, and that is set up on auxiliary 2, so we're going to actually have this on open loop for the time being. Hit yes. So auxiliary 2, and yeah, we can just look at our wastegate duty cycle, make sure it's zeroed out, which is perfect, and yeah, we won't play around with that anymore. Knock control, we're not using. Chassis and body, we're not touching, and yeah, that's pretty much how you configure it. And if you're having trouble, again, the main thing you want to play with is ignition timing and your master fuel value. Don't touch any of this stuff here. This will get you started. It's absolutely fine, but you want to focus mainly. I keep doing that, and that is a bad habit. You want to play around. My computer is so bad. You want to play around with this number until you get the car started. If you have an idle air control valve, it'll make your life a lot easier. You might be playing with the gas pedal a little too much, but this should work right out of the box for Gabe's car and many other cars here, as long as your fuel data is set. That is, fuel and timing, very important. So if you can take anything away from this, remember that. And yeah, anyways, I am tired of rambling. As I said, I will provide links for all this stuff in the description. And yeah, pretty rad. And I felt like being generous, so I'm going to show you guys how to actually set injector to time data. It's pretty easy. If you have injector dynamics, at least this will mean something to you. So for our 1050s, which are our primaries, we have this data here. So our injector flow, we don't have to worry about that. Our minimum effective pulse width, 0.2. So I set that here underneath the main fuel, and then underneath injector setup for the dead time table, pretty easy. All you have to do is actually just pretty much copy this whole thing here, and from, you know, from 6, right, from 6 all the way to 15, right? So this will go all the way to 15. So like, for example, if I zero these out and I literally hit Control V, it will paste all that data in, and this is how it'll look like. So for the rest of them, I'll just put 0.851. It will never get anywhere close to that voltage. And then I'll save that. And this is at 43.5 PSI. So kPa, so let's see, 3.5, it's like 400 kPa. So I'll go underneath here, 400 kPa for the 1300 cc page on the Injector Dynamics website, and we're going to set go underneath stage injection, and then for the pulse width adder, starting from 0 all the way up to 4.0. So we'll make sure that checks out. So from 0 to 4.0, we have our data. So all I have to do is just copy and paste all of that here. Bam. Perfect. Hit F2 to save. And then lastly, we have to do our dead time table, and we'll get the data here. So from 6 volts all the way up to 15. So yeah, we'll start here, 6 to 15. So actually, let's just start at 7. Copy that. So from 7 all the way to 15, paste that, and then change the rest to 0.982 down here, and bam. We have all our injector data. So this tune should be pretty solid for our tuner to work with. Bam. Morning, morning, morning. Anyways, driving to Gabe's. Just made that, you know, that little short guide you guys saw, and yeah, tuner shit. It's pretty sophisticated. I'm actually happy I made that video because nobody wants to make guides on like how to do this stuff, and I'll be the one to do it. And I'm not even a tuner. It's not that special. You can find that information like if you look deep enough online. I didn't really learn from anyone else, mainly besides myself, with all that different stuff. Like, and I don't call myself a tuner. I wish I could, but I'm a computer science boy. I write code. I make the tuning software. I just don't tune it. I'm really combing my hair because it's freaking messy. But we're gonna get going, and hopefully we can drive this thing to the gas station. That would be a big accomplishment. Cold blowing AC, you know the vibes. Because I have no AC in my house. Fuel pump, that's 34. Save that to the file, save it to the ECU. All right, and then I'm just gonna set the fuel pressure by actually turning on the fuel pump by using the fuel pump test feature. And yeah, So let me go quickly do that and see if this car starts up. Have the fuel pump test on, so I can adjust this. Set it to 43. Perfect. Alright, so this car is like being really stubborn when we're trying to get it to idle. It's just like either running pig rich or I don't know. It's like feeling related. So I don't think it's timing related. So Gabe's getting some gas for the car, some more gas, and you're just gonna fill it up. Get that squared away. Alright, so we're filling it up with gas, and I am going to go back to the computer and I want to reset base timing once again, just to make sure base timing is good. So all I do is just plug in my computer, put the key in the on position, key's already in the on position. Open that up. ECU controls.
Can you even see the timing marks from up there?
I should be able to. Yeah. Copy of that, as I said, and then hit shift equals and change everything to -15 and hit save to the ECU. And then get a 10 mil. I need to get my 10 mil. Got that fuel chugging. The timing's set. Yeah.
Oh, look at this. So ready? This is just about like I'm giving it. This is 100% throttle, right? This is 50%. This is like ready. It goes like this is about 5% throttle. That's about like 10%.
Dude, that TPS is so finicky. I repinned the TPS with like the OEM one because the aftermarket one or the one we bought is just honestly junk. So hopefully the TPS doesn't start fluctuating and doing a bunch of funny stuff because like 2 of the pins weren't even like fully seated, which is frustrating. If not, then we'll just like pin it with a DTM. Deutsch connector. Windows 10. Key it on.
Recalibrate.
Depress it. All the way?
Yep.
Let go.
And it's still like right here. That's about 50% throttle.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a true full range, which is fine. But like, it's not. Alrighty, we got it idling. What I had to do is underneath idle, I use ignition idle instead. I don't think this back valve is working correctly. So, we think the back valve is bad. Oh yeah, dude, that thing's hot. Yeah, we took out the IAT sensor since we're not using it right now. I think we're gonna drive it. Yeah, so we're just dialing in the fuel. Ignition's pretty good. That's our ignition table and our rotary split, as you can see. So we're just gonna clean up the fuel table, get it safe. All right, we got the fueling all right. Oh my God, it's moving. gas tank is on this side, passenger side. First fill up, let's go. What are gas prices right now? $3.39.
Not bad.
Not terrible. At least you're putting fresh 93 and not that
I know, right?
junk 87. This thing's gonna run nice.
Honestly, bro, 87, dude, that thing might as well have been like 69. Can't wait to actually launch this thing. It's like, it's so fast.
Dude, let's go. We did this. Harness made it in-house, the whole build. Literally 5 days in on this project. Like 5 days in. Damn. I made some changes in the tune when I was home, when I was eating. So we're just gonna continue street tuning it. Peace, man.
You guys. I'll be back later.
All right, wait. All right, we are back. We are driving. Oh, it drives a lot better.
You had to say
I had
something,
to
bro.
say something. I should have looked too.
Yeah, bro. I'm half Bridgeported.
This whole section, not the prettiest thing, but so far a lot more cleaner.
Kind of leaning out a little bit.
I'm also not referencing those numbers too much right now because the numbers aren't truly reflecting. There might be a crap ton of stuff. Like it drives a lot better now. Whoa. Drives a lot better now, bro. You just gotta start. Too lean?
Yeah, too way
Super rich? Yeah, it sounded fucking rich as shit. How rich was it? 10?
10, yeah, so do like another 25.
25? I'm gonna do 20. Just so I actually have a number to look at. I saw it was super lean, so I'm gonna add like 8%. Try it again.
Still super lean in the beginning. Whenever it goes into boost. Whenever it goes into boost, it's not like.
Oh yeah, we just finished good tuning sesh. What the fuck is this? Is this like a Camaro or something?
Yeah, I got my 80s Malibu.
Malibu?
Got built 358 stroker with a fucking supercharger on it.
Can you tell people what car you're coming from and what you
I
have?
had an M50 swapped E30 that I built, and I dailied a Z32, and I got rid of both of them and just bought this.
And what were you trying to get?
I was trying to get a SIL 80.
Yeah.
The 240 dudes are whack.
Yo, I'm bugging the fuck out. I really thought that was PVC piping for your fuel rail. I was like, yo!
Yeah, he's got it all right. It's all fucking wrapped up.
Damn, we got the whole squad. We got the Saab here.
The shit box.
Is it a 9.3 with a turbo?
Yeah.
Oh, then it's sick then.
Yeah.
3 times on the way.
It's sick when it works.
It's sick when it works. My.
It turns on.
They grow up so fast. From Subarus to that.
It's still leaking.
Oh, fuck it. It's not catching on fire, I'll tell you that. Come on. Damn, I've never seen... Are these called lap belts?
Yeah.
Wow. What year is this car?
1980. Oh yeah, that seatbelt is like...
You know what happened in 1980?
Oh, fuck.
What?
I wasn't born.
Damn, this seatbelt don't work. Oh well. We die like real men.
Damn. GM.
It don't work. Whew.
Damn. I mean, like, it's not like we live with the seatbelts on anyways.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you die in this car, man. Is it on methanol right now? Yeah, it's on methanol.
Oh my fucking god! Oh shit! What? Holy shit!
I get it now. I won't even roast, bro.
Oh my god! Fuck! What the fuck, bro? Dude, that is terrifying.
That was literally only like 4,000 RPM. Like, that was nothing.
All right. Success today? Like always?
For sure, bro.
All right. I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to just drive somewhere.
Thanks.
I need a life. I need things to do in my life.